It's Tim Owen, your hood. Thank you for joining us on Mr. Meaningful Work Retain, a big energy conversation about engaging and retaining your people. Today, we are joined by one of my newest favorite people on the planet. Not just because her company sponsored this season of the podcast, but she is literally my energy spirit animal. Anna Straus is the founder and CEO of employee engagement and recognition platform Spark. And you cannot help but to be triggered by her energy, and you'll see that on today's episode. And before we get started, I just want to give a special shout out and thank you to Spark again for sponsoring this season of the Retain podcast. I'm sure you would agree that engagement and recognition are at the core of increasing retention and reducing turnover in organizations. And Spark has found the magic sauce that blends industry verified research, human-centeredness, and cutting-edge technology to help leaders connect with their teams in ways that inspire them to stay. If you are an HR or a people leader, Spark is a must-have in your toolkit. Check them out at sparkco.com/Mr. Meaningful Work. That's Spark, SPARCK co.com, and tell them that I sent you. We're going to be sparking some HR leaders throughout this season, recommendations from our guests, but you will get to enjoy that as we go through. But for now, let us get to the show. What's up, everybody? It is Tim, Mr. Meaningful Work, and I am so excited to be hanging out with the infamous, the famous, the dazzling, the amazing Anna.
What an introduction.
How are you doing today?
Good. How about yourself?
I am good. Making sure that my head's not too sweaty out here in these podcast streets. But something that we've been doing for this new podcast, Mr. Meaningful Work Retain, because when you think HR, sometimes it can be boring, and we want to be the furthest thing from boring. So how do we spice it up? We get our guests to do weird things. So, so what could be weirder? So I used to have a street interview session where I would ask folks, what are you famous for? And so when you abbreviate, what are you famous for? That's WRUFF. When you spell it out, is rough.
Okay.
So I would ask folks to give me your biggest dog, rough, and then answer the question, what are you famous for? So, Anna, if you're ready and able,
oh my
give me your
goodness.
big dog, rough.
All right, so my rough may be rough. Let's see what
RUFF, WR. So let's hear.
Yeah, so rough.
Let's go.
Is that okay?
I love it.
All
Got some
right.
bass in there. I love that.
All
I like
right.
that.
So what am I famous for? So I'd say, like, with my family and friends, certainly my love for pizza. So I can eat it morning, noon, and night.
Have you seen those things about like pizza to go? Like where they like take a big old slice of pizza and like just like roll it up and like, or are you like a purist where you like you have to eat the pizza in a certain way?
No. So I am cursed though, because I found out I'm allergic to gluten. So as a pizza lover, I try to find the best gluten-free pizza places anywhere. So if they want to roll it, stomp it, whatever they want to do, I will eat it.
Gluten-free pizza. Well, I'm glad there are some options out there.
Yes.
And do you have like a preference, like New York style, Chicago style? Like, what do you lean in preference?
Yeah, I love extra cheese.
Yeah.
And then you always see some pepperoni, olive, and then maybe bacon if I'm feeling naughty. So
Yeah.
what
is your stance on pineapple on pizza?
All about it.
All about the pineapple?
Yeah, I'll definitely do a Hawaiian slice. Are you about the pineapple?
I am like a savory purist. Like if it's savory, it has to be savory, it has to be spicy. If I want to eat something sweet, I'll eat something sweet. So it's okay. You can have your pineapple pizza and I will have all the spices and the meats. The meat lover pizza is mine.
That's my husband.
Yeah. Yeah, and I actually like the thin crust. I know like Chicago style is like super, it's like a lasagna. Like you can see like it's like a deep, like that's a whole meal. But if it's nice and thin, crispy, lots of cheese, I want to be able to lift it up and all the cheese is glue in, and yeah, that's how you do pizza.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, that's what's up.
Now I'm hungry.
Yeah, there we go. Next time we have to bring food on the show so we can talk about our passions and eat them as well. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. We're so excited. You've been doing some phenomenal work that I have been seeing in the recognition space. And you are the founder, CEO, boss lady, empress. What other titles do you like put for yourself? Queen B, Queen A.
Yeah, I do like the Spark Queen.
Yeah, Spark Queen. There you go. The Spark Queen of your organization, Spark. So super duper high level. Tell us a little bit about what Spark is and how you guys are changing the world.
Yeah, so we are a software company. We're building out an AI-driven, personalized employee recognition and engagement solution. Okay. So ultimately, we aren't looking to replace the relationships in the workplace, but be a conduit to equip managers with the tools and insights to really understand how each person feels valued, appreciated, and motivated in the workplace.
Nice. So AI, so artificial intelligence, that is technology is coming alongside the leader to give them insights, right, on how to best engage their people, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So a big part of my background, I've worked with executives for over 15 years on talent attraction, retention, and engagement strategies. And I'm also a certified leadership coach. So I would come in and I'd work with executive teams, I'd work with managers, and I basically wanted to commercialize a process I already know that works. Nice. So the AI is essentially me in the form of Sparky the dog.
There's nothing artificial though. It's all real right here. Yeah.
So it's just bringing some of what I used to do to life to help more organizations.
Yeah, that's awesome. And we were going to have a section where we look at like trending topics and like current events and talk about that. But prior to us starting, Anne actually shared something that was so related to what we're talking about by way of retention, engagement, and recognition. That was a current topic that was in the news. What was that weird story that came out?
So bizarre. So Spark is very much focused on how each person feels valued and appreciated, how they like to be recognized. Those preferences are so critical to the process. Never did I know to this extent. Just, I think it was 5 days ago, there was a gentleman in Kentucky who sued his employer for celebrating his birthday in the office, and he won. And the company
he won.
And so the company had to pay $450,000. Yeah. So now I say it pays to know the recognition preferences.
You know what's funny? So my girls just turned 5. My girls turned 5 this last weekend. And my son, if he had the bandwidth to sue, he probably would sue. My 6-year-old son felt so like they were getting all the gifts, they were getting all the recognition, they were getting all the praise. He was like, "What about me? Where's my recognition? Where's my?" I'm like, "Boy, it's not your birthday. Can you just be happy for your people?" So where somebody is suing for getting recognized in the wrong way, there's still that feeling of, hey, I want to be seen, I want to be recognized, but in a way that is meaningful for me. And you guys help with that.
Absolutely, because this gentleman in particular, I was very intrigued, and a lot of people were sending me screenshots of this, like, Anna, have you seen this? But he suffers from anxiety disorders, and he told his company multiple times, like, I don't want to do anything publicly. And what I'm seeing too, coming out of the pandemic, a lot of people are experiencing far more stress now. Being out in public again is something that's new. So I think that these preferences are like really critical. I never thought it would go to that extreme.
The legal.
But like understanding the why behind the preferences too is so important.
Yeah, that's good. So we're talking about retention. So I wanted to bring the last couple of years, been talking at high level about meaningful work and kind of got some themes around what it takes to make an environment meaningful, recognition being a big part of it. But I wanted to focus more so on the problem of retention, right? There has been, everybody knows that it's, if I say it, it's just going to get lost in the hashtags of the great resignation.
Yes.
Everybody is talking about it, but it's real,
Yeah.
right? Folks are leaving organizations in droves for a number of different reasons. And so leaders are struggling with both the financial and the operational impact of folks that just decide to leave, right?
Yeah.
So how does what you're doing by way of recognition and supporting with insights from that recognition standpoint tie back into retaining your people?
Yeah, no, such a great question. And to kind of bring it into perspective too, it's interesting. Since last April, 47 million Americans have left their jobs voluntarily. So to put that in perspective, that's already a huge number.
Yeah.
The population in California is 38 million. So it's as if all of California left and some
just dipped.
Left their
working.
employer. Yes.
Wow.
Which is unbelievable. And so McKinsey came out with a study to look at, okay, why are people leaving?
Yeah.
The top 2 reasons: they didn't feel valued by their organization or by their manager.
Wow.
And that was leading so much of what's
so it's not even the money.
It's not even the money. On average, I love stats and I can't reference all of them, but I really do love my data.
Yeah.
So on estimate, it's about 12% of people actually leave for more money, which that's kind of what most employers think are the number one thing that's driving retention. Yeah.
So didn't feel valued by the organization or didn't feel valued by their manager.
Yeah. So I'll share a story actually to kind of bring this to life. One that I heard. Story time.
Talk to us about the story. Yeah.
So it's so interesting. This is one that I've talked about quite a few times, but it just really puts things into perspective and shows the correlation between recognition and appreciation and how that drives retention.
Yeah.
So I had met with a Fortune 100 company in Silicon Valley. Their top salesperson had just gotten a $200,000 bonus at the end of the year, but was forgotten.
200,000 bonus.
Yes. Yes.
On top of his salary.
Yep. And it was actually hers. Yeah. Sorry. I had to call that out.
Cancel me. Cancel. How could I assume? Cancel her salary. So she got a bonus.
She got a bonus, 200,000. So then the big year-end presentation comes and the CEO's highlighting all the rock stars on a global basis and forgets her in the presentation.
Just like I did.
Yes. Now she's been forgotten twice.
She's not even here. Oh.
Yeah, it's just unbelievable. And so what had happened, she ended up leaving the organization. Because here's the thing, top performers are always going to be compensated well. All employers right now are competing with the perks, the pay, the benefits, and all of that. The differentiator comes down to the relationships and understanding each individual. And it's really bringing humanity into the workplace. Get to know the human behind your employee. That's what I'm so passionate about. And my big thing is once you shift perspective, you shift behavior. And so, this is the time.
Wow. And is it, because it's, when you lay it out like that, it sounds simple. Focus on the human behind the employee, right? It sounds simple. What makes it, why isn't everybody doing this?
Yeah. Well, I think too, there's just a limited amount of time. So everyone's hustling right now. Now everyone's predominantly in a remote hybrid environment. So it's not like you're walking by someone's office and you're remembering that you need to talk with them or, the quote unquote water cooler talk where it can bring things to mind. So it's kind of out of sight, out of mind. But one of the things that I think is a huge opportunity is prior to COVID, we didn't know too much about each other personally in the workplace, right? And I mean, some people would, but you wouldn't really focus on that. COVID hit. Also, we went into this virtual environment where everyone's on Zoom.
See my cat?
You see your cat? Yeah. Get to know the cat. You're seeing the cool pictures behind them. You're getting to know them. I mean, so many meetings. I was with executives for the first time and their dogs jumping on their lap.
You have a dog?
Yes. And it completely changes the dynamic of the conversation where now there's more of a willingness to share. So part of it is asking the right questions. And like, I love the Frog Network or framework. Are you familiar with that at all? So it's like a great coaching tip for managers on like how to position the questions. It's been used a lot in sales, but now I'm seeing it come into the workplace where the F is, you know, talk about friends and family. You know, are you the only child? Where are you originally from?
Nice.
Then you look at recreation for R. Like what types of things do you enjoy doing outside of work? What types of hobbies do you enjoy? Then O is occupation, which is a lot like what are your career goals? Like what are your strengths? Those types of things. And then lastly, G is goals, like personally and professionally. And start like looking at the full human, the full wellness of that individual, and work. Spend more time at work than we do anywhere else in our lives.
100%. So it comes down to timing. It's like, hey, we just don't have time, but you got to make time. You got to invest the time and asking the right questions that go deeper, that go beyond, that really get to see around the person, not just like, hey, this is the task that you're doing and we're just focusing on that. What's your family? I love the question about goals, right? Because then you really get to see, especially if you've asked a question about family and all these things, sometimes or a lot of times those things tie into what they want to do, right? What are their goals? Is it based on, I want to do this thing for my kids or for my parents or what have you, and that is driving or informing how I want to progress. And it might be outside of their occupation, right? You might ask about occupation. I'm a blah, blah, blah analyst. What are my goals? I want to be a rock star, right? Like on the guitar, like playing bassoon or something. And you get to see that the full hues of an individual. I love that.
And then how can you bring those outside passions into the workplace? You want to be a rock star? Let's do a band. Let's bring it in and bring everyone around. Oh, you love to paint? Let's paint our office. It saves the company money. It's also bringing people around their passions. But then the other layer of questioning goes back to the media story that we talked about. How do you feel valued? How do you like to be recognized? Understanding those preferences. So that's actually the catalyst of like how Spark was born, is we looked at the psychology behind recognition. And it's so interesting because everyone thinks it's the reward. But after looking at a lot of studies, the reward is only half of the experience. How you're being recognized and by whom is equally as important. And so it's crazy. Since COVID hit, reward spend has increased. I think it's going to be right around 97 billion. It was at 46 billion before the pandemic, and now everyone's doubling down on rewards and perks. But until that experience is personalized, getting rewards that people actually want to see, not just a Visa gift card, not Starbucks. Guess what? I'm allergic to caffeine. I don't want Starbucks. But getting the gift right and the experience is so critical. It's the foundation.
So it's not just the end result. How and who does it feeds into that. And I think, because so they have an assessment. I've taken the assessment. And I take a lot of assessments. I'm in learning and organizational development at work. So we are assessments like this. Like, you guys, everybody has an assessment. And we've actually done a recognition assessment. There's something different about the Spark assessment. Because when I got the results back, first of all, the questions that we're asking were like, oh, this is personal. Oh, this is deep. Oh, this is scratching at something that normally isn't scratched on at work. And then I got the results back and saw that the way that I like to be recognized is trust. Trust me. Now, I was inspired by it, and because now I look at all the ways that like folks recognize, whether it's in like home relationship or like work relationship, and see the things that I gravitate to or am inspired by are the things that show trust, even if it's not like a physical item or what have you, things that show that I am trusted and, you know, in that type of way. How did you put together that assessment to be able to key in on those other factors that relate to recognition?
So it's so interesting because There's one aspect of it where it's the recognition events,
Yeah.
the birthdays, the work anniversaries, you hit your goals. How do you
Yeah.
feel motivated and appreciated? So that's one area. But outside of hitting key milestones, it's just how do you feel appreciated within the workplace on an ongoing basis?
Right.
And what does that look like? So when
separate
you
from the event, like
yes.
this
Yes.
create an environment of appreciation through and through.
Yeah. What's your experience?
Yeah.
At work,
Yes.
right. And so I wanted to combine the two to really give a 360 perspective of how that person feels valued and appreciated across the board. And so actually during the pandemic, we did over 500 employee interviews. I've done a ton of different workshops with different employees. Started off in the recruiting background, so a big part of that was the exit interviews and finding out why people are leaving. And we started seeing themes across the board as to why people are saying that they didn't feel valued and appreciated. And so there's these different styles, and the trust me one that you came up with is actually one of our newer ones that we really saw a huge trend around. It's like, if you trust me, like, throw me that project. I've got it. It shows me that I'm a valued part of this organization versus someone else maybe is like a support me style where it's like, hey, if you see me drowning in a ton of work, you grabbing me a coffee or asking if you can help on my project, that shows me that I'm a valued member of the team.
Absolutely.
So yeah, we took kind of a double dip approach to look at the full experience outside of just the big recognition opportunities.
And then as that foundation is being built, the recognition event would then be meaningful. Will then actually have some impact because you're feeling appreciated all the way through.
Yes.
Now, Spark is a youngish company.
Absolutely.
Right? So a startup.
Yes.
And I know from my startup days, back in those days, which was like a couple of weeks ago, I know that there's success comes with timing, right?
Yes.
Like making sure that the product, the market, like that fit is at the right time.
Yes.
Do you feel like Spark is hitting it right at like post-pandemic? Like if Spark was here 5 years ago, like would it have the same effect versus the effect it has now in and post-pandemic?
Yeah, great question. So we actually started building right before the pandemic hit. So we saw a lot of these trends already transpiring, going to the remote work where people wanted to feel more valued and appreciated, but COVID definitely accelerated so many of those trends. And right now it's like the timing's impeccable and it's just like God was on our side. I feel like I'm like, amen. But so, so now we're coming in and like my main like passion and fire behind this, I want to spark the world. And I feel like organizations need this type of tool now more than ever. And so, you know, we have an engagement survey that's statistically valid just to help employers get a benchmark on where they're at. We now have a free version just to let and help organizations any way we can. And then they have our full software that it can weave into to really help with these moments. And right now, that human connection, that positive human connection people's craving. I also think it's cool too, outside of just the trends, is when COVID hit, like we talked about, you saw the more human side of business because you were brought into people's homes. And now I feel like this type of solution is more welcomed. And, you know, even as we're having employees on board, they love the personal questions more so than the professional. Like, what's your favorite flower? We have one for our team. Like, what's your favorite dinosaur? And it's like all customized based on your culture, but like we're so hungry to share and they want to be heard and they want to be seen.
Do you feel like there is engagement at all, like different generational levels, like where maybe Gen Z are more welcome to it versus older generations that it's like, why are you asking me about my favorite flower? Like, you know, is that like, do you see that?
Great impersonation, by the way. Yeah, it's interesting. So how the tool is used is you can physically go in there and like add in your responses. But it's also for managers, like during one-on-ones, if they uncover information, like now I know like you're a meat lover for your pizza type. So I could put that in just as a reminder. So it's really taking that CRM methodology and bringing it into the workplace. So really across any generation, it's just everyone wants to be heard as a
Yeah.
basic human need. But yeah, maybe not
Yeah.
someone who's looking to retire wants to talk about
Yeah.
like their favorite flower, but
Yeah.
some do.
Yeah.
So
Well,
it's just like everyone's so uniquely different.
Exactly. And that's where going in with not just a blanket approach, everybody gets this one thing, being focused on the individual, becomes an advantage there. So what would you say, we're kind of wrapping it up here, what would you say to HR leaders that are looking for advice? They turn on the podcast, like, all right, we're listening to Mr. Meaningful Work Retain today. I want to walk away with one thing for me as an HR leader. What would be that advice, counsel, direction that you would give them based on what you're doing, your experience?
Yeah. I'd say the number one thing right now is upskilling your managers and really supporting them, especially within these remote and hybrid environments.
Yeah.
It's out of sight, out of mind. And one of the number one skills that you can equip them with is AI. And really helping focus and create those stronger relationships with their employees. And I think that's where our software is really helping serve as a conduit for that, so they don't overlook those individuals, help, uncover blind spots. But that would be my biggest advice, even just have them get to know their employees.
Yeah. You heard it. Get to know your employees, understand AI and how it can help you and support you. It's not the devil. Technology is not the devil. You're not taking all our jobs, all these robots and artificial intelligences. No, they're here to help. Like it helps. I think one of the cool things that some folks might miss who are, see it as a challenge is it helps us do what we're supposed to be doing.
Yes.
Right? Like if these things, like gathering the information, gathering the data, which will take a lot of time and attention, where you should be focusing your time on attention, having the conversation, creating the environment that helps them to feel successful. Like those are the things that leaders are supposed to be doing as coaches. And if you can have somebody or something do the data collection work that's going to help you do that, like, why not?
Yeah. It should be the conduit and
Yes.
never replace the relationship.
Yes.
If that's the way that people are looking at the technology, it'll never differentiate you in the market. Then everyone just has the same technology and you go from one company to the next and it doesn't change.
No.
It's the people that make the possibilities.
Somebody tweet that. It's the people. Give me an organ. It's the people that make the possibilities. Yes, Lord. Pastor often pray the loud. Church is over. Thank you, Pastor Anna. Sharing that wisdom. What is the best way for folks to get in touch with you, engage in the things that you're doing? How can the Mr. Meaningful Work Squad support you?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn if you want to connect personally that way, or you can connect with us, Spark Co. We have a CK. And we're on every social media channel. We're always providing free resources, new data that's coming out. So any way that we can help.
Absolutely. One of the things I love about their content is they give examples of recognition. Was it like right time? Was it like the three categories?
Yes.
Right time,
right way, right reward.
Right time, right way, right reward. Go check them out. Spark, Anna, thank you so much for being with us here today.
Thank you. This was so much fun.
We'll be talking to you more.
Okay.
Check us out next time for another episode of Mr. Meaningful Work Retain. I am Tim, Mr. Meaningful Work. Peace. Thank you so much for joining us today, and I would love to hear from you on what you found helpful from today's show, or if you have someone in your network that you would like to recognize or spark, shoot me a message at tim@mrmeaningfulwork.com, or leave a comment on the show content on LinkedIn, or send me a tweet at Mr. Meaningful Work. That's work with no O. Thank you again, and go inspire someone today.